Hello, my dear students and the rest of the learners. Welcome for this tutorial in which I am looking at the topic, performing software configuration. My name is Mema JM, or you can simply call me Emily Swap. Let's begin with the introduction. Software configuration are the specific changes that are meant to a software without changing its source code or structural data model. Software configuration is what makes the software to work. Configuration management is normally performed under the software settings menu. Software configuration can also be said to be the set of functional and physical characteristics of the software as set in the technical documentation or achieved in software. To reduce security risks and improve the software operations, a configuration management database, configuration management plan, and configuration manager can be used to ensure successful configuration management. The System Center Configuration Manager, that we abbreviate as SCCM, is a software management suite which is provided by Microsoft to allow users manage many of the Windows-based computers having remote control, operating system deployment, the patch management, network protection, and other services. Therefore, software configuration management is the process of systematically managing, organizing, and controlling changes to documents, the codes, and other entities during the software development lifecycle for the sake of increasing the software's productivity with minimal or no mistakes. It entails a set of activities involved in managing change throughout the life of a software. Software configuration management plan defines the strategy to be used for change management. Usually, installation of some software such as operating systems may also need some computer configuration. For example, if you are installing an operating system in a brand new computer, that is a computer without any other operating system, you need to do a clean installation directly from the storage medium with the operating system. In this case, you have to configure your computer to boot from the medium with the software. This is done by changing the boot sequence from the computer's BIOS setup by setting the medium with the operating system to be the first boot device. To access CMOS or BIOS, you can press any of the following keys from the keyboard immediately. You press the system's units pound button, either F1, that is functional key labeled F1, F2, F10, delete or del, or ESC, that is escape key, depending with your computer. If you are not sure of the key to press and hold any key on the keyboard as the computer boots to cause a stuck error that will then inform you about the key that you need to press to enter the setup. Once in CMOS, check the instructions on how to make the needed change and save your changes before you exit. You may also directly access the boot sequence by pressing a functional key on your keyboard. Immediately, you press the power button for the system unit. Once you have made the necessary changes in your BIOS, you should ensure that you save the changes and then you exit from the BIOS screen as will be indicated on the BIOS software. Once you exit the system, the booting process will continue with the installation process, or the computer may reboot and then proceed with the installation. You should go through the installation steps as you answer any questions asked and selecting the preferred options. However, If your computer already contains an older version of the software and you are installing a newer version, you may be prompted to select either upgrade to keep your previous files or a clean installation that will erase any previous content from the old version. Let's now look at what we call the software configuration components. The following are some of the main components of a configuration management system. Number one is the configuration identification. It entails identification of configuration items as well as developing a method to identify each individual uniquely. Number two is the configuration control. This is the activity of managing the software's deliverables as well as its related documentation throughout the entire software development lifecycle. Number three is the configuration status accounting. It entails the process of recording and reporting of all the changes to the configuration items. Number four is the configuration verification and audit. It entails the verification of the correctness of the developed and installed software and its components so as to ensure that it meets the performance requirements. So, what are the configuration management tools? The following are some of the configuration management tools that you can use while configuring your software. Number one is GIT. This is a free and open source version control system that can be used to track changes in a software code. Number two is Docker. It is used to reconstruct the expected snapshot of operating systems pre-configured state. Number three is Terraform. It is an open source configuration management platform that can provide and manage clusters, cloud infrastructure, or services in relation to a software, thus enabling teams to write files that are reproducible definitions of their infrastructure. Number four is Ansible, Saltstack, Chef, or Puppet, or call it Puppet. These are frameworks that automate the administrator's processes, with each framework using a series of configuration data files that are evaluated by an executable. Number five is the version control. It ensures that the specific versions or components of software are deployed or built. Number six is change control. It controls the configuration and implements a process that coordinates, authorizes, documents, and reports authorized changes within the software management scope. Number seven is auditing. It scans the software environment and checks its current status in order to ensure that its overall environment is configured as expected. Number eight is the Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, that is MSCCM. It is a configuration and monitoring tool which manages the configuration of Windows-based assets from a single central administrator's machine. So what are the reasons for software configuration? Why would you require to configure your software after installation? Number one, it is to help track any changes in a file and identify whoever made those changes during software development process. Number two, it is to enhance the productivity of the software by ensuring that it has minimal or no errors. Number three, it is to make it easier for the team and other stakeholders involved in software development to be able to work together and enhance the quality of the software through effective communication and collaboration. Number four, it is to ensure that the software runs effectively across various operating systems and the platforms. Number 5, it is to make it easy to accommodate any required changes in the user's schedule and policy. Number 6, it is to help control the costs and increase efficiency by tracking the team members and software development workflow. Let's now look at the importance of software configuration management. Software configuration management is the process of maintaining software in undesired and consistent state by helping track and compare changes made in the system throughout the software development process, as well as knowing who made those changes or revisions. It is a process of establishing and maintaining consistency of the software performance, functional and physical attributes with its requirements, operational information, and design throughout its life. It can also be said to be the task of tracking and controlling changes in software whose practices include revision control and establishment of baselines. Software configuration management is usually used in software development groups in which several software developers work concurrently on a common set of files. It therefore helps avoid one developer from overwriting the contents of a file that had already been written by another developer, which would lead to the loss of critical code. Software configuration management is a process of tracking and monitoring changes to a software system's configuration metadata. It enables software developers to build robust and stable systems by making use of tools that manage and monitor updates to configuration data automatically. Therefore, configuration management helps create a source of truth with a central location for configuration in a situation whereby there are valid values of metadata, thus enabling configuration to be done in an organized manner. This management also enables the software version control and existence of a repository that can act as a point of reference whenever anything goes wrong. This also helps minimize the software system's downtime. The central repository helps facilitate file sharing in a multi-user environment. Therefore, a new file has to be added to the repository first before it can be accessed and updated for an easier audit. Therefore, software configuration management helps curb the risk of losing functioning code because every time a file changes, a new version of the file is created while the original file is reserved. The configuration management also enables configuration values to be added, removed, and modified without affecting the system negatively. It also enables tracking of any changes or modifications on the configuration data, thus allowing the concerned persons to be able to review an audit trail of the modifications. In fact, configuration management is important for managing advanced software systems because it facilitates reliability, uptime, and ability to scale a system. The configuration management features are normally built in the software development tools. The configuration version control enables a configuration to be rolled back, thus helping avoid unexpected breakage. It thus helps reverse the last known best or stable state in case of a problem emanating from installation that has been done. Usually, software configuration management is a process composed of a series of steps for tracking and managing the various components throughout a project. So, how do you perform software configuration? So, software configuration management process is very important Why? So that you are able to perform and execute the task of configuring your software properly for the purposes of the software running and executing as required and without errors. Therefore, in order to implement the software configuration management, you need to follow the following steps or procedure. Number one, plan for the development of the software and identify all the required configuration data, inclusive of passwords and keys. Then organize them into data files and store them securely in an encrypted form as the central source of truth. This helps also, or this step also includes the following: identifying the specification requirements, software configuration items, as well as creating a list of unnecessary or a list of the necessary resources. Number two is to establish a baseline configuration that will successfully operate the dependent software without errors by reviewing a configuration of a functional production environment and committing those configuration settings. Number three is you create a version control system by initializing a repository and adding the encrypted and organized configuration data files into it. Number four is to establish a change control method for ensuring that any changes that are made to the system are consistent with the rest of the project in order to ensure that the system developed is of good quality and the release of new baselines is approved for successful completion of the project. So, any request for changes to the software configuration is first sent to the overall team, which may approve or reject the requested changes. Number five, the developed system is tested and verified according to the predetermined baselines in order to ensure and confirm that it has been developed according to the plan by meeting all the functional requirements. Number six is to apply a pull request workflow to the configuration data files that the software teams can use in order to review and edit the configuration data files so that it can be easy to audit and account for the software system operations that may cause any changes to the configuration. Let's now look at auditing and accounting. A software audit is the activity that is performed to independently evaluate the conformance of the developed software to the applicable regulations, standards, guidelines, plans, and procedures. The software configuration auditing activity determines the extent to which an item in the software satisfies the required functional and physical characteristics. Configuration auditing is therefore a process of confirming that the software is on track and the developers are developing that software as required. The configuration status accounting, on the other hand, tracks each version that has been released during the software configuration process, assessing what is in the new version and establishing why the changes were necessary. The goal of this task is to record why, when, and by whom a particular change was made to the source code of the project. It involves the following tasks. Number one is recording and evaluating changes that have been made from one baseline to the next. Number two is monitoring the status and resolution of the change requests. Number three is maintaining documentation of the changes made emanating from the change requests. Number four is checking the previous versions for analysis and testing. Auditing and reviews focuses on every stage in the development process of the software or what we call the software development lifecycle, focusing on the process, workflow, change requests, configurations, and all other activities that have been involved in developing each baseline throughout the software development. This audit and review helps make sure that, number one, the goals for developing the software are laid out or as laid out are met. Number two, the software comply with the identified configuration control standards. Number three, the changes from baselines match with the produced reports. And number four, it validates the consistency and the completeness of the developed software according to the goals of developing it. And with that, my dear students and the rest of the learners, we have come to the end of this tutorial. And congratulations, therefore, for learning about how to configure software. You can access other videos in computer software installation, as well as other computer or ICT videos by clicking or tapping on Emily Swap ICT YouTube channel below this video. To subscribe to the channel, tap on subscribe button below this video in YouTube if it's not currently reading as subscribed. For any further correspondence, kindly write it to us through the email emilyswap@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to me, and God bless.